Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you all for being here today. The only thing that I would like to say is that hearing Mirto speak about diabetes type 1 was so touching. You are amazing. It's incredible that you're 13 years old and you made that amazing speech. And I think that it is very useful that we're going to have this conversation here with the two of you representing, the private sector and the public sector, because we've seen now with Mirto's example how important the school is. As we were just seeing these texts, the fact that she's texting with the nurses, and the fact that you're holding this event here today is very crucial in raising awareness, and I think maybe not only of the personnel, and of the people around Mirto, but even for other students as well. So, Minister, I would like to start with you by asking you, what about the public sector? I mean, is any of this available in public schools? Could a child, a student that has diabetes type 1 in a public Greek school have these amenities? Is the personnel trained to deal with something like this?
Well, I cannot thank you enough, Mirto, for having us here. It's not an easy task, can assure you, to leave the office, especially at this very hectic time. We're planning for so many things, not just for private and public schools, in trying to make a difference, which is not very easy. I can tell you it's really a daunting task. But again, it was an inspiration to have you invite us here. I think you can champion change and probably be an inspiration for many, many children who cannot be as vocal maybe as you bringing us here, having all this amazing context and content and the beautiful area and the school and what it provides us today. So I'm really honored and I'm happy that I was able to escape the let's say, the office life and be able to be here to listen to you, listen to the professionals, and have an opportunity to share the aspect and the mindset that is very much prevalent in the Greek public school system. Back in the past, when I was a teacher myself at Zacharaki primary school, and then in public schools around Athens, in Attica, all in all, I would never have imagined that we could have made strides in order to be able to meet better numbers of school nurses in the Greek public school system. And I'm not being a partisan here, I'm not using that in a partisan way, but I think it's a common accomplishment and an achievement that we can now have this year more than 3,500 school nurses appointed in public school system. Back in 2019, that was about 1,400. And what is better and what is more, let's say, commendable is the permanent appointments that we have, because the numbers I just used are the people that come and join us for 9 months. These are the people that we appoint, and in comparison, the people that we have in permanent positions have again doubled, and we have more than 340 in the public school system. Is it enough? It can never be enough. But the scarcity and the problem in finding school nurses all around Europe and worldwide is a very important issue. And if you look at the situation of children dealing with diabetes, and not just diabetes, all around the world, you will see that one of the most critical points of discussion we have had in the school system is where to find ones. Is to find the school nurses, even if you have the funds, if you have the means. So you will look at Ireland, you will look at the UK in general, you look at USA, and you will find the same topics of discussion. First of all, to find the nurses, which is also a big issue and a very critical issue. Ask Adonis Georgiadis, he has a lot to share about that.
Well,
because lots of nurses are
nurses
leaving the public hospital in order to come and join us, and we're really thankful for that, but it is an issue that we have to deal with. And number two, for them to be better trained. And apart from the important years that the child needs the school nurse support, we also have to really boost the independence of the child as a young adult in order to be able to meet with the special circumstances that diabetes 1 is.
But besides just the nurses, I suppose that it's also the personnel that needs to be trained, the staff in general. And I would like to ask you, Mr. Principal, Have you trained your staff specifically for how to deal with diabetes type 1?
Yeah, of course. And I think there's lots of different conditions, and obviously we're here about type 1, but as Meta said, there's a huge amount of conditions that aren't seen. And that's always the difficult thing, isn't it? Where we've got an amazing team of nurses who I know are here and do a wonderful job, and with Meta and plenty of others in our community. But of course, there's going to be things happening. It could be hypo, it could be different things happening during the course of a day, which are going to need something, a sort of very quick reaction. Yeah. So it's that sense of understanding, as we've already heard, about actually she's going to need to get her phone out. She's going to need to go somewhere to take insulin or have sugar. So everyone needs to be aware of that, because in any community, we all need to be part of the same solution. And therefore, and of course, as you get older, you would change your teacher, or your teacher change, and your class changes.
And also your needs.
Of course, yeah.
As a teenager, I don't know. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, life becomes a bit busier.
And of course, and I think that's an important thing to raise, and you're closer to it than I am. But actually, that time being a teenager is always one of confusion and anxiety anyway. I mean, let's not all dive back into our 15-year-old selves, ladies and gentlemen. But we remember it is that time of discovering who you are, and then you have that added layer of a condition that no one can see. Yeah. So it's a very difficult time, and actually trying to navigate your way through that, having people around, not just family, but friends, and people in school that can really help and support.
So how did you train your staff? Specifically?
I think lots of different ways, both in terms of particular sessions, so what to do if, and there's things that you can do, right, if this situation happens, this is what you then are going to need to do. Yeah. And it could be the things, all the other conditions that we spoke about.
Yeah. And Minister, does this happen at all in public schools, in terms of training the staff for medical conditions that the students might be facing?
Not in general numbers. You'll see it in some cases. And I really would like to commend, the amazing role also of the nurses and lots of professionals, medical professionals that visit our schools and are making really important recommendations about instructing and educating the staff, the general staff, and I mean teaching staff, but also the Hellenic Diabetes Association that has raised three very important words that I think they should be the principles of all the effort that are making for Myrto and every child, because Myrto and lots of young students, they may be in the center of Athens or in the suburbs of Athens, but let's think about the child that is very far away from Athens.
Absolutely.
Let's think about the child in a small regional school somewhere in Evros, and probably not having, or with a very high rate of difficulty finding a nurse that could be available for this very small regional school.
What happens there? What
then
are the
you have some, counseling, some advice that is happening from the local nurse or the hospital, should there be one, or a health center, and then lots of support by the parents. Usually you have your communication with teachers and head teachers that are making a difference, especially in the most remote areas. But this is not happening in a systematic way, and this is what we're now trying to change with Minister Georgiadis, in order to have more instruction and more seminars, not just for the school nurses, that as I have pointed out, they are raising in numbers, but also for the general teaching staff. Absolutely. So we will start the seminars starting next February in order to teach our teachers, in order to be able to help the children more. Should they need something on a daily basis, which they do, or should there be a hypo or another case where there has to be a case of emergency? But the three principles, the three words that I have really circled in my homework for diabetes 1 was dignity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that all the words and all the cases, Myrto, you just mentioned, should you go on a school trip or go out with your friends, meet with in an afternoon club, is about having all these principles met.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've, two more words that Myrto mentioned have stuck in my mind, awareness and empathy. And it's true that you cannot have empathy if you do not have awareness, and she was absolutely right about that. And it's also true that if you don't have to deal with diabetes type 1, we really don't know enough about it. And especially when, you know, you're a child or a teenager, it might be even harder to know more about it. So do you, besides this event, have you had any more awareness talks with the pupils and the students as well?
Well, the joy was that Meta spoke to a theatre full of her peers, years 7, 8, and 9. So actually all of them have a much greater awareness at the moment as well. And of course, as you mentioned, when you're sort of growing up in any sort of time, yes, it's this, as I said last time, in terms of that anxiety about who you are, but also it's the thing about being different, isn't it? Yeah. That actually when you are that age, sometimes those social norms are being challenged, and you want to fit into a certain pattern, and being different is quite hard. So actually having everyone understanding that we're all different in lots of different ways, and actually that's a really good thing. And let's celebrate that difference, and let's get on board with that. And actually this is a really important condition and it makes a huge impact, but actually we need to make sure we celebrate every type of difference. So whether you're in a small regional school or whether you're in a big city school, all those things need to happen.
How can one achieve that? Because when I was thinking about this panel, I was thinking that, you know, there's the training for the school nurses and the staff, but the stigma aspect, the discrimination aspect, that, you know, it happens in schools in general, no matter if you have a medical condition or not. Children will find a reason to pick on you. What can educators do about that, especially when it comes to medical conditions, about, you know, alleviating the stigma aspect?
I think for me it's about culture, isn't it? You know, we talk about our school values a lot, care being one of them, integrity, curiosity, dedication, all those sort of things, and every school will have very similar words, I'm sure. And it's that culture of making sure we take people as they are. We are looking for that opportunity to be kind. Can I say something positive that's going to make someone's day? Yeah. Can I make good things happen for people around me? And you're absolutely right. Is every child in every school in the world going to get it right all the time? Of course they're not. They're children, and children should be allowed to make mistakes at times. Sure. But also making sure we have enough boundaries in place in any education setting, whatever that is. But that sense of looking after each other, that we belong in a place, we're part of the same team, and we're here to support each other through the ups and the downs. Yeah. And I think having that as a school culture, that sense of community, is not going to ever alleviate every problem on earth, but it's going to certainly help.
And Minister, is that feasible? Can it happen to build this culture in public schools as well?
We're trying to, and it's not us. It's actually the educators and the school community as a whole. And I truly feel, and I'm optimistic to tell you the truth, I can see young peers at the age of Myrtos and even younger or older, and they're really creating this enabling context and environment where everybody can feel, you know, seen, understood, valued, and appreciated. And I think the new generations are leading the way. Where there was stigma and where there was prejudice, you can see more understanding, acceptance, and more people willing to learn more. So the more they learn, the more they hear about conditions or chronic situations that can happen to a peer or a classmate, they are more willing to be here in the auditorium should they be given a chance. So the more we provide these learning journeys, also for the private school system, for the teachers and the children themselves, you must be certain that they will be here, they will be present. And they will be present in order to make a change in the school community as well. So I really hope that we can have even some combined seminars or these learning journeys, as I call them, where children from public schools and children from private schools can get together. For us, and with former Minister Kerameos and Minister Pierakakis, we tried to include in the curricula this skills lab during the daily schedule, where these afternoon classes or some extra activities are included in your 6 or 7 day timetable. Lessons about empathy, understanding each other, battling bullying or other things, and trying really to cultivate a school environment that, as I said, is more enabling, more understanding, and trying really to highlight special skills, but understanding and being accepting everyone.
Fingers crossed.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Because it's true, though, that people in general, but especially teenagers and children, hear more from their peers than, you know, if Mr. Jules, who was an excellent speaker otherwise, went to speak to them, and if Myrto went to speak to them, I think that children would naturally listen more to someone who's closer to them. What about diet? How does that come into place? And the available options for meals at schools?
Yeah, and certainly that's a continual dialogue with the caterers in the school, and we just changed caterers actually, and they do a brilliant job. And actually that dialogue with the operations team, dialogue with the nurses, dialogue with everyone to make sure we have a range of options to cater for every possible taste. Not just taste, but also need. Of course, that is really important. And also being, again, that sense of awareness about having certain foods on you. Meta will need to have some things on her that other people wouldn't do, for example, and making sure that we allow that. And making sure that, again, there is awareness in that sort of canteen setting. But I think the point you raised about peers is really important, that actually not just the age group themselves, but also those older children in the school. Because you're absolutely right that people like me will stand up wearing a suit and say things on stages like this, but actually how often will they listen? But they'll definitely listen to a 15-year-old, and they'll definitely listen to an 18-year-old that they look up to. So actually trying to educate our older students, our year 12s and year 13s, to be those role models that we want our young children to have. And that could be through empathy and kindness, but it could be through exercise, it could be through diet, it could be through lots of different things.
Yeah. But that's the thing, because it's great to hear from your peers, but not everyone is as motivated or as good a public speaker. It's something, it's a skill. Sometimes it's innate, but other times it's a skill that needs to be cultivated.
And that's why you give them the opportunity. And in any education environment, there has to be that sense of risk-taking.
Yeah.
And there has to be that sense of giving everyone opportunity. And through all those opportunities, some things aren't going to go quite so well. And that's okay. Because through those things, you're going to learn. And then when they get older, it could be university, it could be work or whatever else, they're then going to remember those experiences.
Absolutely.
And it could be organising a charity stall at a Christmas fair. It doesn't really matter what it is.
No, it stays with you, absolutely.
Absolutely. And actually making sure we're having the older ones working with younger ones is really important. That builds culture, that builds that sense of shared journey.
Yeah. And Minister, coming back to you, tell us a bit about the diet aspect first, and whether there is the chance in public schools as well to sort of modify the meal choices for pupils and students that might need something different than the average student. And also about the opportunity aspect. Do public school students in Greece, can they have these opportunities that will help them grow and then become role models for their peers?
Well, I've seen this happen, so it's not just a perception aspect, which I'm not going to share in order to present or embellish a situation. I've seen this happen with lots of role models and people that have really stood up. They are not being given a chance to pitch for ideas as often as they would do in your school, but this is growing, this is really improving, and I see that they're using social media in such a way that they're becoming role models, even there is not such an auditorium in their schools, but they're using the power of the social media to make a positive change. So I'd say that apart from this physical, or this opportunity to stand up in front of your peers and be able to pitch about what is happening to you, be able to present in a say, time-conscious manner, and be able to speak, they're not being given that chance that often. We've seen children from public school systems that have really made a change. They talked about personal experiences. They want to share it as much as they can and be able to, really make a positive change and an influence and an impact. Now, back to the diet, because it has really troubled us. I was formerly a Minister for Cohesion and Family, and one of the main competences of one of our organizations, OPECA, was dealing with those school meals that are offered in public primary schools. Not everywhere in Greece, but this has, of course, increased in budget over the past 5 years, and they are being given a chance. They are really reporting the situation early in the beginning of the school year in order to have some diet alternatives. School canteens are being informed by parents and the school teacher when there are situations of, when we have cases of children in the public school system. They may not be given a school meal, but they will have to get their, their meal from the canteen or a light snack, and the owners are usually notified well in advance that a child can or cannot
So
have
it can be
something.
done.
It
The
can be
different
done.
dietary
It's not easy.
requirements.
It's not easy because you realize that this personalized, individualized approach cannot be offered that easily in a public school system. But of course, I've seen this happening. This is becoming more streamlined. I think that the more we talk about the situations to the average teacher, to the head teacher, they're given written records and, of course, some set of instructions what to do. You will see this happening in a more, let's say, uniform way that secures every child, individualist plan, which I've heard the doctor said that you need to have those plans. This is, of course, a directive that is set by the diabetes associations all around the world, and we're really happy that we're able to incorporate it more and more also in the public school system. Not easy, but I think that we are making progress.
And the bureaucracy of it all is not, does not stop it from materializing.
Well, bureaucracy is something that we will always be dealing with. I mean, whether you've seen this in paper form or you've seen it also in digital, sometimes we're really, eager to transfer, written bureaucracy also to the digital side of it. But I think that it's such a great effort and it's such a great cause that for those children, we really have to do our best and, deal also with some hectic daily red tape issues that we always have to deal with.
And you've both worked in different schools in your careers. So I would like to ask you from the aspect of, working abroad and from having been an educator here and now the Minister of Education in Greece, what are the gaps that you're mostly identifying that you think should be the priority to fill?
Yeah, I think certainly a lot of my career I was in boarding schools in the UK, and that's a very different setting. Having I ran a boarding house of 69 teenage boys, which I know maybe sound like a complete nightmare to you, but actually, because you're living and working together, it was a real sense of community. I think the only gap probably, and I've been very fortunate to work in schools with fantastic medical care, and certainly great awareness, but often it's that sense of confidence from the young people to be able to speak about it. And actually making sure we instill that confidence as early as possible that any issues that might happen, we're able to share them.
So you mean that in the UK, children had it more? They had the confidence
well,
more
I don't think as a percentage, no. But in terms of making sure we have communities of whatever size or type they are, to have that sense of openness that people can say anything and be very open about how they're feeling. In terms of your question, that tended to be the barrier, particularly for your teenager, who, although everything was in place from an official school point of view, it was often that barrier of confidence sometimes that one has to take that step. Once that step's taken, great, we're here for you. And despite the fact you can reassure them that whatever that is troubling them, we're here for you, sometimes it does take that individual sense of courage, and I spoke about that earlier, that it's that sense of courage being able to say, do you know what, this is who I am, and this is what a condition I have. And that's probably, for me, in my experience, probably been that only barrier that I've probably seen.
Minister, how about you?
Well, as regards the medical condition, I think that we're really improving. So the more we talk about it, it's becoming, as I said before, an environment that it accepts more, and this is very much instilled in younger people. If I had to compare, because I had the chance to also work in Oxford for a very short period of time for a school transfer project, I saw that, and I really admired the fact that schools were more independent. It's too centralized here. We're making too many decisions on the ministry level that could be and should be taken on a more regional and local environment and level. Local education authorities in England are making a change, and all these decisions have to be taken by me in the Greek public school system, which I really hope that we could be changing or could change in the near future. And of course, I saw children that were more empowered and were really given the chance to really, present themselves, making more decisions. I even remember those children in the primary school that I had the opportunity to attend for the months in Oxford, preparing the school, the school meal area during, taking turns. Every year they would make a change every year. take turns in preparing that. And I think that they were more independent, they were more empowered, and I really hope that we'll get there. And I would really like to see the Greek school become more autonomous in a way, more extrovert, more, outward looking. I really think that this will become more visible and more of a reality with proper teacher training, more digital equipment, and, children that are given more chances to, have better perspective.
Yeah, and maybe more inclusive as well. So if Mirto and Mr. Jules could join us, because we're going to entertain some of the questions that you've sent, and oh my God, you've sent so many. So I don't think we have time for them all, but while you guys are coming up on stage, we have a question here for the minister. How can Greek schools better educate children and parents to proper dietary needs and make the foods available healthy for all children, and healthy, I suppose, for all children?
Two things, and these things are happening in cooperation with the health ministry. And Irini Agapidaki, and she's the alternate minister, as well as Minister Adanos Georgiadis. We have already included in the RRF, it's the Recovery and Resilience Fund, the European funds that were given in order to tackle the epidemic. It's a huge budget that's spread out on different pillars. So one of the main priorities of the Ministry of Health is the new plan and the new project in order to instill better guidelines for dietary needs and also stricter guidelines as to the school canteen operation. So starting September 2026, these new guidelines will be more present, visible, and even more stricter in the operation of school canteens. And we will have more seminars happening in regional and local level as to proper diet, guidelines, and, the cells of independence in order for the child to make a better dietary decision, not having necessarily, your parent or your teacher discipline you, or just, or constantly on your side, being able to make a better, more informed dietary decision. So this is happening, as I said, in cooperation with the Ministry of Health, and for the school canteens also with the Ministry of Development, because it's a tripartite cooperation.
And since we're still on the topic of schools, we have a question here for Mirto that's relevant.